Hello, humans. I am your host, Bradley Martin, and this is Clearing the Way, a resource for small business. I talk with sales and HR experts, other small business owners, and anyone else that can provide you with information to clear your way to success. My guest today is Shana Brown, Director of the Washington Business District Authority. Shana graduated from the University of Georgia, I believe, then made her way to law school. She spent several years in real estate and property management before heading home to Washington. If you spend any time downtown, you have probably seen her magic at play. She continues to create fantastic events, build a sense of community throughout the business district, which is what we're talking about today. Her efforts are creating a ton of new opportunities downtown, so that's awesome. With my role with the CDC, I am able to collaborate with her a lot with a lot of the projects downtown. So that's awesome. So I get to see a lot of the effort that she's putting in and the payoff from it. So she has been a huge part of the kind of recent surge that Washington has seen. Shana, thanks for being a friend. Thanks for being a guest on Clearing the Way.
That was incredibly generous of you, Brad. Thank you.
It's all true.
Thanks for that introduction.
So we're going to do this a little bit different than what I normally do, which is we're going to talk about some of the, I mentioned it, we're going to talk about the community building, but I kind of want to talk about some of your past first. Let people kind of get to know you a little bit if they don't. So, so came back home. Mm-hmm. Okay. Where did you grew up in this area? Mm-hmm. Where... what school, where all did you go?
So grew up, born and raised between Canonsburg and Houston. Went to Chartiers, Houston.
Okay.
Love it here. Wanted to get away, wanted to go to a big school. University of Georgia kind of checked all the boxes for me. Wanted to go far away. And went there in first year. It was a whole huge culture change for me. It was a huge shift. I got called Yankee for like the first semester.
Okay. Well, so before we get into that though, before we get into the college thing, so as a student at Chartiers, were you involved in any activities? What did you do? Like, what kind of student were you?
Funny you should ask, Brad, because I actually got voted most active my senior year. Yeah, so
okay.
I was in everything. I was in everything. Soccer, track, cheerleading. I did volleyball middle school in like 9th and 10th grade. I did cross country for like one race.
Okay.
Chartiers Houston was a great school because it was small and you could have those opportunities. So I'm a huge fan of Chartiers and smaller schools. But then obviously like FBLA, PJAS, you name it. Like fly fishing club, everything.
What the hell?
I know. Sam Block, he had that going on.
Okay. That's interesting. Did you know what you wanted to do when you were leaving there, other than I just want to leave town? And actually, what led to that? Why did you want to dip out of here?
I really wanted to experience life outside of, Washington County's great, Pennsylvania's great, but I wanted to get out of the bubble a little bit. I wanted to explore, travel, and just see different things.
So what did Georgia check? What boxes did that check?
Far and big. Big and far.
Okay.
And I have an uncle who was a Delta pilot. So he was based out of Atlanta, and he was kind enough to take me up, show me, and I just fell in love with Athens. And we can talk about this later, but that has had a huge impact on my vision for the city and, what I envision Washington being someday. So Athens is, it's consistently voted like best college town in America. It was the best 4 years of my life.
Huh. Okay. So what did you want to do? What was your plan?
Well,
leave school,
again, my senior year, being voted most active. I also, in the yearbook, if you go back and look at it, it was go to University of Georgia, major in political science and history, and go to law school, which is crazy because it's exactly what I did. So I was I knew what I wanted to do.
But what did you want to do that was the plan, but what was the end goal there? What was the job?
I wanted to make a lot of money. That was the law school part of it, and I always I was always told I was good at arguing things.
Okay,
so you have no idea when you're 18 years old. You have no idea what you want to do.
Yeah,
and it's just like okay, this looks like it'll fit. This is a good I can do a lot with this, and that was the other thing. Like I figured even if I decided not to practice, that I still had that. I still had that education, and I still had that background and that asset.
Okay. That's interesting.
I know, it is. It's crazy, huh?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so you go to Georgia. That's the plan. Mm-hmm. Plan is maybe do law, but also maybe not. Mm-hmm. Kind of rough, but that's the plan. Mm-hmm. Okay. Your 4 years there, was there anything that started to change your mind at all, or was that still kind of steady throughout your time there?
That was still pretty steady. I majored in business for a minute, but I'm horrible at math. I'll be the first to admit it. And I didn't want to have to take those upperclassmen accounting classes to get the business major. So I remember the day that I switched to history and political science, and I was like, all right, now I'm committed to law school. Like, I've got to go to law school if these are my majors.
What caused you to try? What did you tried business? What was that about?
So I loved it. I mean, I figured it was kind of a catch-all. It was a catch-all. Okay. And I figured even, going to law school, that was still like my number one goal was to go to law school. Okay. And having the business degree, it only bolsters that. So, and then I joined a business fraternity, which was fantastic. That's actually how I met my husband. So yeah, the business fraternity was great, and it was co-ed, so we had a lot. It was just a great opportunity. Okay. All
right. So then you switch back. All right, cool. We're history. We're doing the thing. Graduate there, then off to law. Like, did you immediately? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
And at that point, did you still not really know what the job was? Did you know where you were going to?
I wanted to do either international law or real estate law or real property.
Okay.
So I had, at that point, I had met my husband. He had his real estate. Like, he was like one of the only people that like got paid to go to college and made money while he was in college. And I mean, if you know my husband, that makes sense. But he had his real estate license in college and was working a part-time job while taking classes. And, it was a passion of his. And I saw that, and I'm like, yeah, this makes sense. And the goal was to open up a one-stop shop with him doing real estate, me doing the closings, which is actually what we kind of ended up doing anyways after law school for a couple of years until we moved back. So. Okay.
All right. So then you got a plan. Great. Here we are. Mm-hmm. Out of law school, plan's still the same. Mm-hmm. And then you hop right into that?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, before going into my third year of law school, my husband and I we got married, and then we bought a house that was built in 1886 in Georgia. And basically, like, just to give you some kind of visual, we pressure washed the inside of the house. That's how bad it was. It was about to be torn down, and we brought it back to life. Had no intentions of leaving, just loved the place, loved the little city that we were in, and we started our business. But yeah, it was all pretty much like boom, 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 boom. Okay, so you start that business. How the hell did that go? What, like, working together, what was that like? It was, we're pretty good, and we give each other space. Okay. So I think by the end of it, so I was pregnant with our first daughter, towards the end of that, because we moved when she was 6 months old. So towards the end of having that business and, doing it, I was in the morning and he was in the afternoon, like for the office work. And then we'd go out, and sign contracts and everything kind of opposite of each other. But it worked really well. I mean, we have we're very honest with each other. So that helps a lot. Okay. And were there so it just the two of you, did you have any employees? The two of you? We had a secretary that would schedule and manage all the calls and stuff when we went out.
Huh. Yeah. Okay. So that was relatively smooth-ish. That feels, having a business with your significant, I feel like that can go really well. Also could be a disaster. I think the honesty, the communication probably huge.
Oh yeah, I
That
tell
is
him when he's getting
huge
on my
there.
nerves, and then he knows that he
Yeah.
leaves, and
Give
vice
me a little
versa,
space,
vice
yeah.
versa. But we went through like every life change possible that first year. I mean, literally, like I was finishing up law school. He was starting the business with me, and then we were fixing up an old house, and then actually on a personal level, both of our fathers passed away within like a year of each other, and it was
Jesus.
sudden. It was very sudden on both fronts. So it was like. We always said if we could get past that first year of marriage, we could get through anything, because it was just like we just got hit. We ran through the
That is
gauntlet.
a lot of shit to deal
And we
with.
planned our wedding. We had a huge wedding down in Atlanta. So yeah,
Okay.
it was crazy, but it was
Okay.
great. It was it was great that that's all over.
Yeah. How long did you guys do that?
The business or just
Yeah.
being down in Georgia. So the business about 2.5 years.
Okay. Anything was that, I mean, obviously all of the life things aside, like the business side, was there anything significant that came up that was like you were not prepared? Because I guess you didn't have any business background. Did Ben?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
like
So
business genius.
Okay.
He's Renaissance man, jack of all trades. He can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that probably helped a lot.
Oh yeah.
Did anything come up in those couple years that was particularly challenging on the business side? Obviously, you've got all the chaos going on, so like that adds its own complexity, because you've got all the personal chaos plus business chaos. It's like, this is wild. But anything in particular that sticks out during that time?
Yeah, actually. So, with having my legal background and my law degree at that point, I had read and studied for 3 years about worst case scenarios. And it's like, okay, before this person comes in the office, they have to sign an independent contractor, like a release, everything, all of these different things to protect us. And Ben is much more trusting, and, and we don't want that kind of relationship with these people. We want to build camaraderie. And I'm like, that's great until it's not. So that was a huge like point of contention, but that was really the main thing, I think.
Did anything ever happen because...
We had a couple incidents. Yeah, we had a couple incidents, but for the most part, it was smooth sailing. It was nothing catastrophic.
Okay.
Just more of personal preference. He wanted to be friends, and I'm like, no, you're signing all of these releases so that we're not responsible for anything. But.
Okay. All right. So then you're done with that. What led to you not doing that anymore? You said you moved after that? Where
it was our daughter. it was having our first daughter, that big life change where, when you become a parent, you reevaluate everything, and you really want to make the world a better place for them, and you want to make a difference, and you want to be impactful, and you want to be close to family. And for me, even though I fought to get away from here, and I was like, I'm never coming back, I'm never doing it. Once you have kids, it's like you want them to experience. I had a great childhood. Like I said, great high school experience. So you want them to have that.
Okay, so then you said earlier you wanted to just kind of experience more than this area, but you also like swore that you wouldn't come back. What the hell led to that? Like, why did you definitely want to leave, and definitely, at least at the time, think that you weren't going to come back? Like, what were some of those? Yeah, like what the hell causes that?
Well, we had that was the hard part. We had our business, and it was doing really well, but we have our daughter, and my mom, like I said, my dad had just passed away, and my mom's up here doing her little hobby farm thing. At that time, my brother and sister were both out of the house and kind of far away, going to college and doing their own thing, and it just made sense. I wanted to go back to work in some capacity because I was just really working part-time. And we'd hired an office manager at that point. So I wanted to go back to work. I wanted somebody that was going to be able to watch the kids and, eventual kids. But, at that point, my daughter. And it made sense.
Okay. So you guys head home. And then what did you do when you wanted to work again or more full-time? Yeah, what did you do when you got back?
So I started teaching some college classes. Started off at CCAC, and I really loved it. I
Okay.
fell in love with it. So criminal law, evidence. I did a couple real estate classes, a couple civil procedures. They called it con law, but like we threw in everything to that class. And it was just, I really, really loved it. And I loved that atmosphere, and I loved the enthusiasm and the energy with the college. And I learned just as much from those students as I hope that they learned from me. But I don't know. I mean, I was really pretty casual with them. So it was great.
Okay. How long did you do that?
I did that for about 5 years, and I started off like I'd had full semester at first. It was just with my daughter, and then I have 3 kids, and every kid I had, I took less and less classes this semester, and finally having my third, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't. I stayed at home full time with them.
Okay, and how did you? At this point, is there any like? It seems like that's something that you actually enjoyed.
I did.
Was there any interest at that point of doing that more full-time at that point?
Yes. That was actually something that I kind of planned on doing at that point.
Okay.
So I'm going to take a break for now, raise the kids, gave that my all. But I intended to go back and then teach. I would have loved to teach W&J or Waynesburg or a closer college in the area. So that's what I intended on doing, because I did. I just fell in love with the teaching and the college.
What changed that?
Well, I mean, nothing really. Nothing.
So
I still love it.
How did you go from wanting to do that after to what was next? When you went from full-time parent back to work, what was next?
I mean, I think the main catalyst was just the opening. It wasn't something that I had really thought of. I'm really passionate about the community, even when I wasn't.
Was this the next job?
Yeah.
Shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, Brooks, my son, he was barely 5 whenever I started in this position.
Okay.
So, like I was at that point, he was going to kindergarten. I'm starting to think, okay, what's the next step? Like, do I go back and start like contacting these colleges and doing classes? And then the position that I'm in now that became available. And I was like, wow. And, all throughout, even though I wasn't working, technically I'm a stay-at-home mom, which is the hardest job in the entire world. I will say that till the day I die. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. But the most rewarding, even though I was staying at home, I still volunteered and did, ton of other things. And that's when I really found my passion for the community. And like one person can be a catalyst. One person can be a connector. One person can actually make a difference. And that's when I kind of realized that, wow, okay, this could be something I could do. And then it was just like the stars aligned, the position became available, and
okay.
Yeah.
Do you still have any interest in teaching?
I do. I've taught not taught. I've gone in as a guest speaker once or twice to W&J, and I just love it. I love the energy, but that also transfers over to my position now because, I love working with W&J. I still get that energy and I still get that college atmosphere and environment, but I can bring it to the community. Instead of going to the classroom, I can bring the classroom and the students to downtown.
Huh. Is that something that at any point you can kind of go back? Like, I'm sure it is, but as far as the teaching side and at the colleges, but from the law side, like, would you be able to just jump back in at any point? Can you do that? Or
I'd have to brush up because laws change and statutes change and everything does.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I would think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of nice. You can hop back in whenever your
be an
time frees up.
Dr. Knapp, if you want me to come on board, I'm here anytime you want me to.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you take this job. At what point were you, how did you know you were ready to get back to working? Because I have no experience in this. No kids, no nothing. So, at what point were you like, yeah, I think it's time?
My kids were becoming more self-sufficient. And like I said, I gave them 110%. all of my energy, all of my time, and that they got to the point where they were becoming more self-sufficient. Like I said, my son was going to kindergarten, so it would have been every day, all day. So I was having that for the first time in, 10 years, I had that gap in the day.
Yeah.
So I was available.
Before you, okay, so you were back, how quickly did you start teaching? After you guys moved back?
We moved on Friday, and I started teaching on Monday.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Okay. So there was no gap. What the hell?
I don't know if you're picking up on it, Brad, but I'm not, I don't do well with idle time. So
I know that.
That's how it's got to be.
Okay. So, all right, that's interesting. Was there any point there, like you were volunteering, you were involved in some of the other things. So you were starting to build that, or rebuild that tie with the area. Was there anything, once you guys moved back, was there any desire to move out again? Like, so if you move back for family, but now you're kind of taking care of a lot of the things, like obviously it's still nice to have family close, but you were still no, at this point you're teaching occasionally or whatever that looked like. But you're kind of filling that role that you needed the support for. Was there any desire of like, let's actually move out again? Did that come up at all?
No.
Okay.
No, we're really happy. I mean, we're here, we're local.
Yeah.
We love our neighborhood, we love our house, love our city. So yeah, they're really, once we were here, which was surprising because both my husband and I are very much open to opportunities. So I'm not going to say if something came up that we wouldn't take it into consideration, but it was never something we would actively pursue.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So where's Ben from?
Georgia.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I made him move.
Okay. Okay. All right. So this job pops up. Wonderful. Seems like a perfect fit. Did you have any idea what you were getting into? Like, okay, so what did you think was happening? What did you think you were signing up for first?
To be 100% honest, I thought this is going to come across wrong. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I thought it'd be a lot harder than it was. To be totally honest, and let me explain that. I don't mean like I'm not working as hard as I thought I was going to by any means.
I see it. So,
but the support, I did not think I would hop into this position and have the support that I have pretty much instantaneously. Like council, mayor, my board, like there was no period of time where it was like getting to know you, Shane. It was like, okay, I'm in the job a month and I'm talking to Scott Putnam about running sheep down Main Street. And he's like, I don't get it, but go for it. Like, okay, you got my stamp of approval. So I expected that transition to be a lot harder than it was.
Yeah, that would I would expect the same thing. That's wild.
Yeah, I was expecting a lot more pushback from people, and like I went into it and I was like, okay, we're gonna do this. If I have to take a stand, I'm gonna take a stand. But everybody,
no stand needed.
No, everybody's just they've been wonderful. I like the community partnerships that we have, and people getting behind the cause, which is downtown. It's just been it's really overwhelming, and it's just personally blown me away.
That's cool. Okay, all right, that's interesting. I did not expect that.
Don't get me wrong. There's still some friction sometimes. But that's the fun. Like that is a passion of mine. Is when there's a roadblock and the way that I plan it or the way that I see it isn't the way that it's going to pan out. I love the puzzle pieces that we get to work out. Like I just love that. Okay, so this is how we planned it, but this is an obstacle in the way. We can't do it that way. So how do we pivot and how do we alter that and work around or work with?
Yeah.
I love that. That's a huge.
So, okay. So what did you have so you took the job. What was, I assume, the goal of the job? Like you knew what was expected, what the goal was. Did you have a plan for accomplishing it? Like, you didn't have any, community build. You didn't have any of that in your past, right? Mm-hmm.
Correct.
How the hell, like, what was your approach? How did you figure out what was next? Like, walk me through kind of how you approached the role.
So the first, I'd say 4 or 5 months, I scheduled meeting after meeting after meeting. I mean, like back to back to back every day with community partners and people. I mean, it could just be word of mouth. Like I'd meet with this person. They say, oh, you need to meet with this person too. And I focused really hard on building that sense of community and those relationships so that when the time came, we were all familiar with each other and we could all work together for a common goal. So that was the first like 4 or 5 months of my position. And it was exhausting trying to make those connections and then do all the administrative stuff and the events.
Yeah.
So yeah, like the first 5 months it was.
When did you start?
August of was it 2021? Yeah, August of 2021. So it'll be 2 years and 2 years this August.
Okay. This episode is brought to you by the City of Washington, Citywide Development Corporation. If you're a small business in Washington and you need another set of eyes on your situation, or you need help growing, you're not sure what's going on with the business, you can't figure out how to get out of the current struggles you're going through, you're just looking for ways to become a little bit more efficient, anything else like that. Or if you don't know where to go next, you don't know who to find to fix whatever the problem is, reach out. The WCDC is a free resource. We're here to help. The links are down below. Reach out. Like I said, it's a free resource. Now back to the episode. Okay, so step 1, meet everybody. Mm-hmm. And then, like, where is it just like, let me just talk to people and then just figure out what we can do? Was that?
Well, it wasn't so much talk. It was listen. What's your vision for the city? Like, what is holding us back? What is the issue? Like, what are some of the setbacks you've seen? And there was always that common enthusiasm. I mean, people love the city and people are enthusiastic. And I think everybody realizes, I mean, I'll talk all day about downtown, but I mean, dear goodness, our downtown is so unique with its history and with the buildings. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful. And everybody realizes that. It's just a matter of getting everybody with that, hive mentality to work towards that goal and to actually visualize and write that goal down so that everybody knows this is what we're working for.
Yeah, that alignment piece I feel like is always because everyone wants to make things better. But what the hell does that mean? It's like, okay, cool. What's your vision for that? I think that makes it better. But if if you're not aligned on what making it better actually means, then you can't work together.
Yeah.
So that's a huge piece. Okay. All right. So that is probably number 1 on the how do you build that sense of community, that shared goal, which is like, well, you got to have a shared goal. Step 1, what's the shared goal? So if you're not in agreement on that, how in the world, like you're just speaking different languages.
And you're moving in separate directions.
Yeah. Okay. So create or discover the shared vision. So, okay. So then you're listening to all these people. You start to find some common threads between them all. What, like, the events have been a huge thing that's happened, and we're going to kind of be all over the place at this point because we've gotten kind of where we wanted to be. So, so we'll start with this talk about events. So what led to, not a focus on that, but kind of, like, we have way more events now than we used to. Okay. What led you to believe that was a useful way to spend time?
Okay.
Like, how did you come up with that?
2 things.
Events aren't new, but
Yeah, two things. First of all, I knew that I needed to do something that was visible and kind of in your face to gain credibility. So, I had the support of all these people, and everybody's been wonderful, and I'm meeting with all these people. But I mean, at the end of the day, they're like, "Yeah, Shana, this is great. Like, these are great ideas, and let's work together." But until you're doing something to physically show that you are there and you're working and you're doing the best that you can do to try to get these events up and running and have people coming into downtown, until you have that like street credit, so to speak, people, it's just words. Yeah. It's just words. But whenever you can show that, hey, this is like the most successful event, the businesses are reporting the biggest numbers they've ever had, and like we're making an impact. These events are important. That builds your credibility, and that really helps, bolster these relationships when you're looking for the partnerships. And then secondly, the sense of community. You've got to give people something to collectively come to downtown for. Did
you have, when you're organizing these first couple of things, was there any, obviously you've got support high level, but on the business side or on any other front, was there any other pushback or just non-buy-in? And how were you able to because I assume there's some people that are just like, we've been hearing this, yeah, we had some in the past, but I didn't see any help, so I don't want to be involved. How do you work through those? Because that's going to come up.
That's where the credibility comes in as well. I feel like, so not just with the community partners, but with the businesses, you have to show that you're going to follow through. And whether it's, Small Business Saturday or our Local Love or, our Whiskey Rebellion Parade or Christmas Parade, holiday market, you have to show that you, first of all, we signed up for this event, we're doing it, this is great, we'd love to have you involved, but you also have to show that you're going to follow through with it, and they're going to have to see results. And then, honestly, after the first couple events were successful, especially the last couple months, there's been a huge shift with the businesses. For the first time, I don't have to reach out to everybody. They're actually nice. Emailing me, and they're thinking about events on their own. So there's been a shift, but it took a good year of having successful events and having people see the difference in coming downtown and just marketing the heck out of it and showing people that Washington is worth coming downtown for.
So you're a year and a half in, and you're finally starting to get that. At the beginning, when you're hosting, or not hosting, whatever we want to call it, when you're putting on these events, was there personally frustration with some of the pushback, and how do you that's always something that's weird, because you know that these things are good, but it's okay, I have to wait a year and how do you work through that? Because I know I've got my way. How do you work through that? Okay, you just got to stick with it. It's going to pay off. How do you not change course? And it's okay, well, the events are working, but maybe not as good. That
was a huge personal struggle, because as you know, I'm very much all right, this is what's going to happen. We're going to do it now, and it's going to happen now. So that was something I really had to work with and learn. Steph Masters is always Shana, stop and celebrate your little victories. You just move on and go to the next thing. And I remember her saying that to me, and that was a huge thing that I had to overcome, was just celebrating the small victories. Yeah. So the small victories might be, Mayor's Inn emailing me, Shana, this was the most successful day that we've had since the 90s, or, a newsletter, somebody that subscribed to the newsletter writing in to say, thank you so much. It's great to see downtown doing stuff again. Those are the small victories. And that's what, kind of held me over until we got a big victory or a big event or a big grant. Yeah,
that definitely helps. I think having an appropriate, timeline in your head, that also helps. That's something that's helped me. It actually came up with a couple businesses recently. It's we're trying to solve this thing that's, you think it's a next week thing, it's a next year thing.
Yeah, and you have to be realistic.
Okay, yeah. So if next year is when we actually think this thing's going to be successful, we're on the way. You think it's next week, we are way behind.
Exactly.
But that's not realistic. So being able, and any time, the community building of any sort, whether it's some online community, whether it's a actual community, like that stuff, relationships aren't like a, hey, let's be friends. Cool, we're best friends now. Like that's not how any of that shit works. So you gotta, the horizon, like the timeline for those things is way longer than what you probably want it to be.
Yep.
But that's kind of relationship building, so it is what it is. If you're doing something based on building relationships, it's going to take you a little while.
Yeah.
So set your goals accordingly.
Just be realistic about it. It's not going to change overnight, and you're not going to get people jumping on board after one event. Like, okay, this is great. We're going to give you like another 6 months and see how you do, and then we'll start contacting you to be a part of these events.
Yeah. So okay, so you've got the events. Those are doing well. Was there anything else that you were doing initially to try to build that sense of community? The events are huge, but is there anything else? Yeah, is there anything else that initially you were like, okay, this could also help with this?
Yeah, I mean, just having that FaceTime as much as possible with the businesses. You know, like I'm in Chico. I say Chico's my second office. I'm always at Chico. Nancy's on my board. You know, having those relationships, being able to walk into these stores and these businesses, and I don't know what the shift was or what the switch was, but at some point it became less of my position and my role as, you know, the WBDA and more of like a walking in like, hey guys, like it's a friend kind of thing. Like we have personal relationships now. So like I said, at the beginning, it was me just doing FaceTime and, you know, getting to know them and introducing myself. But somewhere along the line, a couple months in, maybe even a year in with some of them, you know, it shifted and it's like, hey, how are your kids? Oh gosh, I heard about this. How's that going for you? So it becomes more of a personal relationship. And I mean, I don't know if that's how you're supposed to do it, but I think for me, for me, I think that's how it has to work for them to be able to have that trust to come to me whenever they need something or to have that relationship has really kind of been pivotal though.
Okay. And so initially you met with all of the, like, kind of the partners. Yeah.
But
were you aware that you were going, like, was that something you were doing consciously? Like, spending time in all of the businesses as much? Like, was that something you knew to do immediately, or you kind of discovered it along the way?
I think everything that with my position has been discovered along the way.
Okay.
Like this works, this didn't. This is good, this not so much. So it's really just been like trial and error.
It wasn't like I need to do this many businesses in this many days. It's like, this is starting to work. People recognize me, which is an important piece of this. Like,
I got my nickname. We're good. Joe Pizar, he was the first one, and he likes being able to acknowledge that. But yeah, downtown Shana Brown
episode something on this podcast. I'll link it down below. So you got this. We're building a community, and we need to talk to everybody. We need to listen to everybody, see what those common goals are, and then creating this this shared vision. Obviously important. And then you're spending time with everybody because we have to create relationships. Let's kind of talk about the importance of that community, like that sense of community and what that can do for the businesses. And then we'll kind of work through, maybe you don't have a Shana, maybe you don't have this downtown business district, and what can businesses do on their own to do this? So let's kind of work through in that. Let's kind of flow through that. So, okay. So what else? Yeah, I'll kind of leave that to you and then I'll kind of chime in. Like, how do we create this sense of community and how important is that to the development of or improvement of the businesses, if that makes sense?
Community is everything. And, I think a huge part of building that community, in addition to the events, obviously, and having that is the education aspect of it. Just in the sense of like letting people know that this is what's going on, this is what we're working on, and maybe maybe not even education in the sense of like learning something new, but this is keeping them up to date. So last January, started my newsletter, stayed consistent with that. Oh my gosh, stayed consistent for that for like still doing it. Goes out once a month. And like obviously our Facebook page and social media, but just letting people know what's going on and celebrating those small victories. So that's what they're seeing. Like, okay, yeah, I know there's still a lot of work to be done, but these are the things that we did this month, and these are the things that we're working on. This is what's down the pipeline. Just letting people know that we're not just sitting on our hands here. That there are things being planned. There are new businesses calling me every week wanting to come in, and this is what we're working on.
And is that something that you think is important to do for the businesses, for the larger community, like the area's community, or is that a both thing? Like
both.
How? Okay.
Yeah, definitely. The businesses most of our businesses are part of the community as well. So there's a huge overlap. And that's why I always say, that's so important to support local, because they are the people that make up your community. So they're obviously interested as community members, and then also as business members. So yeah, just keeping everybody informed as best as possible. I mean, obviously, sometimes I'm like, I was on our Facebook page for like 2 months, and I sent it on my newsletter, and people are still like, we didn't know about this. I'm like, I can't knock on your door, but like through community partnerships, like Quality Quick Print, they've been amazing. I got with them a couple months ago, and they were like, hey, we send out these mailers. Would you like to feature community events? It's like, oh my gosh, yes, that's amazing. Yeah. And they mail it out to the city. So, stuff like that, like those relationships that we've built, that's what you can accomplish and achieve when you have those kind of partnerships and relationships.
Yeah. Okay, so that's all. This is not really related to this. Have you tracked anything? So with all of these events, all of these new initiatives, have you been tracking anything? And is there a way or metrics that you think are important to track just to show the improvement? Because I think if somebody's trying to do this elsewhere, okay, they don't have a you, but they need a you, and they want to be the person. What do you think are the important metrics to track for, like, being able to get the funding from whatever their sources are? How do we create this person? Because obviously it's important. What can we track, or what should we be looking at to see the success that we're having?
Well, obviously, like increase in sales. So I always try to get the businesses to give me their input after an event. Like, how was this for you? Was it better than last year? Like, how much are your sales up? Like, let's do a baseline. And then I would really love to have some kind of counter with these events. Like this year we got this many people coming through the door. I know that's something that you and I have talked about before, with kind of having a gauge on how successful was this event when you break it down and look at the numbers. Yeah.
Okay. So the easiest thing, if you're trying to do this, would be those relationships are going to be key, because obviously people aren't just going to share numbers with random people. So cool. We need to have those relationships. And the more specific, like, okay, if all people are willing to do is say, yes, we were more busy, no, we were not more busy, okay, that's a good starting point. But the more detail you can get there, the better.
Yes.
If you can show some percentage increase, that's wonderful. And then that's the free version. And then once you get to a point tracking people, we have gone through it, like
the passports. We do the passports for small business. Which those are great, but at some point, with these events getting bigger and bigger every single time, we've talked about it being almost a burden on the business owners, because people are going in to get these stamps. So we're trying to develop and implement some kind of digital passport where they can just scan a QR code. So hopefully that'll be rolling out this year as well. Well,
and I think that's a good thing to mention when we're talking about this. Like, when you're looking at tracking these things, whether you're a business owner or not, I think the goal, at least in my perspective, is always not to create more of a burden for the business owner. So in my opinion, I don't know if this is right, I would take less accurate numbers as long as it doesn't affect the business owners. Like in this case, like we've been doing these paper passports, and sure, we could do something that would be a little bit more efficient or a little bit better, but then it's more of a burden on the business owner.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the last thing we want.
Yeah.
'Cause these events, I mean, for small businesses, these events, if you have people coming out the door and you only have 2 people working, I mean, it's significant for them.
And in bad experience, at those businesses, like that turns a would-be lifelong customer into a one-time customer.
Yep.
Like, we don't want that.
Yeah.
So the goal, if you're trying to organize these things, in my opinion, is as little burden on the businesses as possible.
Yes.
How can you make their life easy and still help them in the way? Okay. So we're tracking these numbers in whatever way you can. And then if you can then show people, that's good. Probably going to cost you a little bit of something to do that. Whether there's a ton of different systems. We don't need to get into that. But we don't need to get into that. But okay, so we've got these events. Let's get back to this building community and some of the benefits of this. So we're hosting events. We are more active with everybody. Everybody knows what's going on. Great. What does that mean? Why do we need to do this? Like, sure, it sounds great. Everyone has we have a sense of community, but what the hell does that actually do for businesses and just your downtown area in general?
Yeah. It attracts more businesses. If people see and envision downtown as a thriving area and as a place that they want to be a part of, they are more likely to bring their businesses, or sometimes it's just word of mouth. Like, maybe not even their businesses are coming downtown, but they have a friend who wants to open up a photography studio. Hey, have you heard about what they're doing in downtown Washington? They're running sheep down the street. How fun is that? Like, they're cool people. We want to be a part of that. Yeah. So that's... and I know you had Mark on, and his saying is like, the float that takes everybody to float, all of that. And it's true, though. It takes everybody, and it's not. We have amazing business owners that really get that, and they don't view each other as competition. They view it as an asset. So, we might have somebody coming in that's, doing their different spin on a bar or doing their different spin on a distillery, but it's only going to improve the downtown. It's going to bring those people in, and
more traffic is better for everybody. Exactly.
So that's the goal is, with these events is obviously, to have great events, to build the community, to get the businesses, the foot traffic, and to start changing the perception of the downtown to eventually attract and to bring in these new businesses. Okay. And plug them in.
That makes sense. So we're doing all these things. We're creating this community, and then there's from the business side, that sense of community. You're now more like, okay, I have a relationship with you. Great. I'm way more likely to suggest you because I know what you're about. So somebody comes into my place and says, hey, I need this, this, and this. Oh, how about Shana? She's right down the street. She does that. Cool. So now my customers are your customers, and then the same thing happens in your place. So, but if the businesses don't have those relationships, that's not happening, or at least not as common.
Yeah.
And so you've got that piece, super important. Plus, you're bringing in traffic at these events. Now, the goal is those events introduce people to the businesses that they weren't aware of. Now they're customers and they're traveling here more frequently. Wonderful. So that's all wonderful. That all is okay. So that's what this can do. Great. What if we don't have a you to organize these things, or to be a catalyst for it? Like, how can, let's say, Johnny, the business owner in whatever city, is like, hey, we don't have a Main Street manager, but we kind of have. We kind of have, we're starting to build this. A couple businesses are here. We need to drive. We want more traffic here.
Yeah.
What can some of those steps be? How can we work towards that?
Work together. It could be as simple as businesses. Look at Washington Winery. Before there was a WBDA, there was a, director of the Washington Business District Authority. Before all that, you had, Washington Winery and the Burgesses who started Small Business Saturday because they took it upon themselves. Elisa, when, previously Emerald Valley, she did the breakfast crawl. She started that. And Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know, right? I mean, that's what it takes. And then you see what it's grown into. It's a fantastic idea. And it predates me, and it started because these business owners took it upon themselves to organize and to work together and to create these events that it's drawing people in. So, I mean, I give them all the credit in the world, because it's, sometimes it's an uphill battle to get people to work together.
Yeah.
And, when you have those people that are doing that and organizing it, it really can. I mean, look at us. We're 10 years down the road, and look how big Small Business Saturday is for us.
Yeah.
And the breakfast crawls. I mean, we do 2 a year, and they've just really taken off.
Okay. So, and I think an important piece, like, everyone isn't going to be on board, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But getting the more people that you get on board, the easier it gets for it. Like, you can only deny it for so long. You can only think that, everyone is competition for so long. And there is a sense, like, that is an important piece, but it's also more traffic is better for all the businesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So that collaboration between businesses, somebody, like, if you're the person, you want to be that catalyst, try some event.
Yep.
Pick a holiday.
Yep.
There's plenty of them.
Yep. Just none that we're doing too. I'm joking.
You might be somewhere else.
Oh, I'm joking.
But, like, pick a holiday. Do something. Pick something. It doesn't have, like, there's plenty of examples of ways that you can do that. It might be a breakfast crawl. Yeah. And I'm sure if you're interested in how to set these things up, I'm sure Shana would love to help you.
I would. I do. I love this. It's my passion. And that local Love Cocoa tour that we did, it was one of our most successful events. And it was because the businesses were sharing my posts, and the businesses got really involved, and they just injected themselves right into the event, and then were sharing and doing their own posts, and they just all jumped on board. And that came about, I mean, that was not a last minute thing, but kind of a last minute thing. Yeah. In January, I was like, okay, we have January and February, which are traditionally slow months for small businesses to begin with. Like, what can we do that could maybe boost them so that we can get them through, to the spring and then the summer, where it's, overflowing with events and people and different things. And it was like, okay, well, let's do, like, what do we like in February? Okay, hot chocolate. We want families to come in. Okay, Valentine's Day is the next week. So that just evolved that way. And then the businesses just ran with it. And it was amazing.
And I think you mentioned the posting thing, and I'll touch on this again, even though last week's episode was about this.
Night and day difference.
So that stuff is huge. Like, having everybody be involved in it and taking kind of some ownership of it too. Like, okay, cool. You're posting about it. Whoever's organizing it, obviously, like, you got to drive it.
Yeah. Cool.
But everyone else that's involved, they also, the more that they're promoting it, the more likely that everybody is successful.
Yeah.
And that's important. Like, that is huge.
It was night and day. I mean, that event started from scratch, was last minute, and it was hugely successful because of that reason, because the businesses shared it and they were doing their own posts. And I mean, dear goodness, like, the stuff they came up with, like, Amy up at Kaleidoscope, she did a collective mosaic where the community came in and, like, was participating in this art project that's going to be donated to the city. Ellen at Liberty Pool, she came up with, like, these coded messages. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be anything, like, absolutely crazy, but just something different and something that they're excited about.
I think that is a huge piece of it, because it's like, okay, so you're doing this hot chocolate tour. Okay, but what about the place that they don't sell food or anything? Okay, cool. Make it your own. Like, I think that's an important piece of the event. If you're trying to create this, like, forcing your idea on everyone, not generally the best way to to get people to want to be included. But it's like, hey, here's the idea. Here's what we're doing. What can you do? Oh, you're doing this mosaic thing. Okay, that sounds cool.
Yeah,
that's right up your alley.
It fits into the theme, and that's your niche. That's what you do at your store.
Yeah.
So let's showcase it. Yeah. I mean, and that's when, like, I think that was the turning point too with the businesses and these events. Is I really noticed for that particular event that the businesses just wholeheartedly embraced it and they jumped on board, and that was a definite shift. So that was fantastic.
That's cool. Okay. All right. So if we're doing this, so the events are good. The collaboration is good. Is there anything else that, again, if we've got somebody who's trying to be that catalyst, is there anything else that they can do or work towards to start to build or improve that sense of community within their area? So we talked about events. Mm-hmm. Those are huge. We talked about that collaboration. Is there anything else that can be done to encourage the increase in traffic in their whatever their area is? Maybe they have 7 stores downtown. Okay. How do we do that?
You can always give them money. So we have the facade grant program, mm-hmm. Which has been, huge for our downtown. So, that's another aspect of my mm-hmm. job is to do these grants and to try to get the businesses, not only the businesses, resources and, potentially money mm-hmm. for their facades, but just across the board, just making it so that there's that possibility for new businesses coming in. Like, okay, so we're exploring options for interior renovation costs, and like we have this resource. Or, okay, so work with the city and Don Henderson look at the tax brackets and mm-hmm. like the tax incentives whenever you come in your first year, then your second year. So that's another huge thing. I mean, people are always driven. Yeah. People are always driven by the bottom line.
Yeah. Well, and I think that kind of leads back to the importance of the relationships. Because mm-hmm. it's going to be difficult. If you're a business owner trying to be this catalyst, it's going to be very difficult to figure out where all that, what is available. Okay,
yes,
cool. So
that's a tangle. I mean, like the whole grants, that took me a while. And it was only through the relationships mm-hmm. and the people that I met that they're like, oh, hey, this is available. And, oh, hey, have you applied for this? And they're doing this and it's due in 2 weeks, like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's, a lot of this, which makes sense. Oh, how do you build a community? Well, you're going to have to make some relationships. Everything that we've talked about is very dependent on your ability to foster good relationships. Okay, so if I'm a business owner, I now know kind of how I can be this catalyst. Okay, great. And I know the importance of building a community. Wonderful. That's all great. Is there anything else that you have noticed that doesn't particularly work well? Or anything that's like, hey, this is killing it. If you're in this position, you should maybe try this. Is there anything that sticks out to you? And no is a good answer for either of those.
Everything's trial and error. I mean, truly, consistency, I think, is one of the most important things. Just that was a huge goal of mine. The first 6 months was building these events to make them so that they are annual events. So everybody knows, okay, come February, this is what mm-hmm. we do. Come March, this is we do Washington Goes Irish. April, it's my down month because we're gearing up for the sheep. And then, June, you have a million things. In July, Whiskey Rebellion. So building the consistency, I think, is important as well. But it's all trial and error. Like, you don't know until you do an event what's going to work and what's not. So I've learned a ton this past. I mean, I'm still learning. There are some things that I would definitely do differently, but you learn from it, and we do it that way next year. To make it better.
And I think depending on where you're at, events are going like your things are going to work differently. Maybe mm-hmm. a hot chocolate tour doesn't work because you live in San Diego.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
Maybe don't do that in February.
Exactly.
Maybe. I don't know what your weather's like, so maybe that'll work.
I mean, I'll just go ahead and tell you, there's literally no place else in the United States, at least, that can claim that they were, the number one exporter of wool in the 1800s, thereby having a sheep festival where you run them down and run them down for races, or Whiskey Rebellion. That is one thing that nobody can ever take. But that wouldn't work in, Mount Lebanon or wherever you're going because they don't have that claim. And that's another thing that we've really had to, like, what are our strengths? Yeah. What is Washington known for? What do we have that other people don't? So I would definitely recommend that too. Like, what assets do you already have existing that you can really capitalize on? And for us, I mean, from the beginning, I kind of saw that it was our historical aspect. We have, the Bradford House and we have the Lemoyne House right in our downtown business district. I don't know of any other city around that has two significant historical landmarks right in their downtown business district. And, obviously Clay and I work very closely together. He's partnering with me for Running of the Wolves. And Tracy is amazing, and she's doing wonderful things at the Bradford House, and she participates in all my events. So they're such a interwoven part of the community, and to not capitalize on that historical aspect would be such a mistake. So see what your assets are, see what you already have in place. Make it simple. And then build it from there. Like every town arguably has something that nobody else does. It might be that place that's been there since it might be Shorty's, look at Shorty's. They've been there for 100 years. Nobody else has that. So make it easy on yourself. And huge is, the consistency, obviously, that is super important. So consistency, massive. Make it easy. Look at your, what you guys already have and kind of use that as a framework. And know that the first round is probably, you're just starting. If you're in this situation, you're trying to be this catalyst, first couple events, not going to be good. They might be. Actually, they might be good. Unlikely, but you're gonna make mistakes.
You're gonna make some. You're gonna mess some things up, and that's okay.
Give yourself some grace.
So we need to be consistent. That's huge. Okay. Anything else you've mentioned? Anything else before we wrap up that you think is important in this community building? Either if somebody is in a role similar to you, or somebody is trying to be that Emerald Valley that wants to do this crawl. Anything else that we need to know that would be helpful for us? Include as many people as you can. Okay. So for this event that we're doing in May, it was there was an obvious lack of one huge aspect of our community, which is the churches. The churches don't really have any big one event downtown. So we got together, and they're now doing a service on Sunday following the Running of the Wolves. We're pulling all our resources together. We're utilizing what we already have existing for Running of the Wolves. And then they've all come together and formed their own event on Sunday. And it was only because, I'm looking at it, I'm like, we have this for this group. We have this for this group. I'm on this committee for this group. This one's connected and plugged in. But this is a huge part of our community. And we need to get them downtown. We need to get them involved, and we need to showcase them, because it's not just one business or one organization that makes up a community. It's everything. We're very lucky downtown that we have W&J. That's a huge asset and huge resource for the town, and vice versa. So we've made strides with making relationships with them and getting them involved in the downtown. But it's not just the businesses, or it's not just this organization. Really just throw your net out there, and whoever, sometimes people aren't going to want to have anything to do with it. That's okay. And that's okay. Don't take it personally. It's okay. Maybe they will. Eventually. Maybe they will next year. But just throw your net out and get as many people that want to participate and be involved as possible. Because really, Lauren from Ignite will tell you we're better together, and it is true. She's made gone. All the difference in the world. We got Christy now. We don't. I love Christy, but I love Lauren too. So. Okay. So all right. That's all wonderful. I think we have a good place for people to start, or a place for people to kind of to work on for their communities. So you don't have to have a person whose job is this. You could be that catalyst. All you got to just a business owner with an idea. Just start an event. Start one event and make it what you're known for. Okay. So where can the humans find you on the interwebs? And also, you mentioned Running of the wolves as in the clothing thing, and the sheep thing, not the wolves as in the eaters of sheep. So tell us a little bit about that, and yeah, where can the humans of planet Earth find you?
So Facebook is really the best that we post everything on Facebook. So it's Downtown Washington, PA, and
It'll be linked
Instagram.
It'll be linked below.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Brad. Yeah. We're on Instagram as well, Downtown Washington, PA. We're also www.downtownwashingtonpa.com is our website. And then, newsletter. I periodically put up our newsletter subscriptions to our Facebook page. So that's really the best way to stay up to date on everything going on. Running the Wolves, that website should be up next week. It's runningofthewolves.com. But really, in the time being, everything's on our Facebook page.
Okay.
So, that's May 6th, but we're also doing Cinco de Mayo, First Fridays, with one of our amazing community partners, the Preserver Reporter. They're doing the First Fridays on May 5th. And then we also have a VIP Sheepo de Mayo for our sponsors over at the Lemoyne House that same night. We have a mariachi band and tiny little sombreros for Barbara, our sheep mascot for the city. You got to have fun with it. Another thing I could throw in there.
Unless you're in a serious area. Unless everybody in your area is super serious, then be super serious about your events.
I've known some super serious people that have really cracked up when I start talking about these sheep. So I don't know. Just get something nobody else has.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have Sheepo de Mayo at the Lemoyne House, that the 5th, and then Saturday that whole day is devoted to the running of the wolves. So we have the breakfast crawl in the morning. Then we have the children's area, the pavilion with local artisans, vendors. There'll be a stage, and then the races start at 12. Grand championships are at 2. It's just like we have
and these
way
grand
too much fun.
These are sheep that are running down the street, right?
Yes, okay, a very small 75-foot area where these sheep get to be showcased, and I mean, it was such that there is a historical aspect behind it. I promise, there's a reason we're not just doing this. Like we were.
I think Clay made up the history, but that's okay.
I mean, if he did, I hope everybody buys into it because this is we're having way too much fun to stop now.
Okay, so website, if anybody has questions about the event side of things, if they need some help, I'm sure your contact information's on there. So
yep, it's just Shana at downtownwashingtonpa.com.
Easy enough.
Yeah.
Anything else before we go?
I don't think so. I think we covered a lot.
Okay. Thank you for listening and watching. If you could be a doll and share this, share it with your friends if you've gotten anything from this. If you have anybody that you think could be that catalyst in their area or in your area, share it with them. It'll be super helpful. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you have any suggestions for guests, let me know. Contact info is down below. And thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. This is fun.
Thank you. See you next time.